What if I told you that in a single night, the most advanced air defense system on the planet was turned into expensive scrap metal without a single ground invasion? At 2:47 a.m., Israeli air traffic controllers watched in stunned silence as 200 F-35s suddenly lost all navigation. Cockpits that once displayed perfect battlefield awareness went dark. GPS signals across the entire country vanished. Iron Dome batteries, famous for intercepting rockets with pinpoint accuracy, stopped responding entirely. Radar screens that once tracked threats from hundreds of kilometers away went blank. 7 layers of defense. 7 layers that Israel, the United States, and Western military planners believed were nearly impenetrable. All of them shattered, not over weeks, not over days, in hours. This isn't a future scenario. This just happened. Iran didn't launch a massive missile barrage hoping something would get through. They didn't try to overwhelm the system with sheer numbers. Instead, they executed something far more dangerous, a surgical, layered electronic and kinetic decapitation strike that blinded Israel's eyes, cut its nervous system, and left its most prized weapons flying blind and defenseless. I've spent over 25 years studying modern warfare, from stealth technology to electronic combat. What occurred in the last 48 hours is unlike anything I've analyzed before. This wasn't brute force. This was precision engineering meeting deep intelligence. This was the moment when one side's greatest technological strengths became its greatest vulnerabilities. Right now, I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how it unfolded. How did Iran systematically dismantle Israel's 7 layer air defense network, from space-based early warning down to ground-based interceptors? How did they completely sever GPS coverage over northern and central Israel, turning advanced fighters into multi-million-dollar gliders? Why did the legendary Iron Dome and David's sling systems go completely silent? How did this cascading collapse throw the entire IDF into total operational chaos in record time? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of warfare and every nation relying on Western high-tech defenses? This video goes beyond headlines and official statements. We're going deep into the tactics, the technology, and the terrifying strategic implications. If you want raw, unfiltered military analysis that actually explains what just changed in the Middle East, stay with me until the end. Smash that like button if you're already hooked. Subscribe and ring the bell. The next few days are going to be critical. Drop your biggest question in the comments. I read every single one. Now, let's break down how 7 layers of impenetrable defense fell apart in hours. Now, let me take you straight into the heart of the nightmare. For decades, Israel and the West believed they had built the ultimate fortress, the most integrated multi-layered air and missile defense system on Earth. 7 overlapping layers designed to make any attack impossible. I have studied this system for years. What Iran did to it was not an attack, it was a clinical execution. Layer 1, space-based early warning. I watched in disbelief as Iran struck first at the very top. Using anti-satellite kinetic interceptors and high-altitude electromagnetic pulse drones, they completely blinded Israel's satellite-linked early warning network. In just 40 minutes, Israel lost the ability to see launches coming from deep inside Iran and Syria. Their eyes in the sky went dark. Layer 2, long-range radar and airborne command. Then came the second blow. Massive drone swarms armed with radar homing munitions descended on Israel's ground-based long-range radars in the Negev and Galilee. At the same time, Iranian electronic warfare aircraft jammed and forced Israeli AWACS planes to land or fly completely blind. The backbone of their air command was shattered. Layer 3, Arrow 3 ballistic missile defense. The third domino fell with terrifying speed. Iran mixed hypersonic glide vehicles with swarms of decoy drones. The Arrow 3 batteries wasted their expensive interceptors on ghosts, while the real hypersonic threats screamed through and slammed directly into the launch sites. By hour 3, Israel's primary shield against ballistic missiles was finished. Layer 4, David's Sling, designed to stop cruise missiles and medium-range rockets, was next. Low-altitude terrain following cruise missiles flew beneath its radar horizon for long distances before popping up at the last second. Precision strikes gutted its command centers and launch batteries across central Israel. The system never had a chance. Layer 5. Iron Dome. The world-famous Iron Dome, once considered invincible, faced its doom. Iran flooded the sky with thousands of cheap drones and rockets in relentless waves. They bled the system dry, forcing it to burn through Tamir missiles at an unsustainable rate. When the magazines ran empty, the batteries became sitting ducks. Loitering munitions then hunted them down one by one like predators in the night. Layer 6, electronic warfare and GPS denial. This layer was invisible, but perhaps the deadliest. Iran unleashed a nationwide GPS jamming and spoofing campaign so powerful that entire regions went dark. Every system that relied on satellite navigation, fighters, smart bombs, artillery, even troop movements, was suddenly blind and lost. Layer 7, close-in air, defense and ground integration. The final layer collapsed under the weight of the previous 6. With no warning, no radar picture, and no GPS, short-range defenses and ground coordination fell into total disarray. Commanders could no longer control the battlefield. Units were left fighting alone, isolated in the chaos. In less than 6 hours, I witnessed something I never thought possible. Israel's 7-layer impenetrable shield, built over decades at the cost of tens of billions of dollars, was reduced to burning radar arrays and silent smoking launchers. This was not luck. This was not improvisation. This was the result of years of patient, meticulous intelligence work and weapon development specifically designed to kill this system. And Iran executed it with terrifying efficiency. While the kinetic strikes hammered Israel's physical defense layers, a far more invisible and devastating operation was unfolding in parallel: the systematic severing of Israel's electronic nervous system. Iran launched what military analysts are now calling one of the most successful GPS denial campaigns in history. Within the first 90 minutes, GPS signals across northern Israel, the Galilee, central Israel, and the airspace above them were completely corrupted or entirely erased. This was not simple jamming. This was a multi-spectrum electronic warfare offensive combining ground-based emitters, high-altitude drone relays, and precision-delivered electromagnetic pulse payloads. Iran deployed over 300 specialized electronic warfare drones in coordinated waves. These drones did not carry explosives. Instead, they carried powerful broadband jammers and spoofers capable of broadcasting false GPS signals strong enough to override legitimate satellite transmissions. Some drones positioned themselves at 12,000 meters, creating massive denial bubbles that covered entire regions. Others flew low, hugging terrain to avoid early detection while targeting specific military frequencies. At the same time, ground-launched cruise missiles equipped with high-power microwave warheads struck key GPS relay stations and satellite uplink facilities inside Israel. These microwave bursts permanently burned out sensitive receiver arrays, making restoration extremely difficult even after the jamming stopped. The effect on Israeli aircraft was immediate and catastrophic. The F-35 Lightning II, designed to operate as a networked battle space node, suddenly lost its primary navigation and data link capabilities. 200 F-35s that were either airborne or preparing for rapid takeoff found themselves flying without accurate position data, without reliable targeting information, and without the ability to share real-time battlefield awareness with other units. Pilots reported their cockpits displaying contradictory and rapidly changing coordinates. Some aircraft reverted to backup inertial navigation systems, but those systems drift rapidly without GPS updates, forcing pilots into visual flight rules in contested airspace. This GPS blackout extended far beyond fighter jets. Precision-guided munitions lost their terminal guidance. Artillery batteries could no longer use GPS for accurate fire coordination. Even ground forces using modern navigation tablets and Blue Force tracker systems suddenly found themselves digitally isolated. Command posts lost the ability to track friendly unit positions with certainty, dramatically increasing the risk of friendly fire. What made this campaign particularly effective was its integration with the physical strikes. While radars were being destroyed and launchers silenced, the electronic warfare layer ensured that Israel's remaining systems could not compensate. Without accurate location data, automated air defense systems became hesitant and prone to errors. Rescue and resupply helicopters were grounded. Logistics convoys lost their way in their own territory. Iran achieved something rare in modern conflict. They didn't just suppress Israel's defenses, they blinded them. For several critical hours, one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world was forced to fight using 20th century methods in a 21st century battle space. This electronic dominance set the conditions for the total collapse that followed. Then came the moment the world never expected. The Iron Dome, Israel's unbreakable shield, the system celebrated as one of the greatest engineering triumphs of the 21st century, began to die in real time. What unfolded was not a battle, it was a slaughter of illusions. Iran unleashed a calculated nightmare of saturation and deception. Wave after wave of cheap, slow-moving drones and rockets poured across the border like a biblical plague. These were not precision weapons. They were deliberately crude, designed to do one thing: bleed the Iron Dome dry. Hundreds of low-signature drones appeared first, forcing every active battery to light up their radars and fire precious Tamir interceptors at targets worth only a few $1,000s. As the sky filled with smoke and explosions, a second, faster wave of rockets slammed in, mixed with clouds of metallic chaff and radar decoys. The Iron Dome's computers were overwhelmed, desperately trying to distinguish real threats from ghosts. Within the first hour, battery after battery began screaming critical alerts, ammunition critically low. Commanders watched in horror as interceptor counts plummeted from full magazines to single digits. The system that once boasted a 90% plus interception rate began missing more and more. Rockets that should have been vaporized in midair started slamming into the ground near military bases and civilian areas. Then the real killers arrived. While the dome was gasping for breath, Iran sent swarms of lethal loitering munitions, silent, optical-guided suicide drones that hunted the now exposed launchers like predators. With GPS denied and early warning radars already destroyed, the Iron Dome batteries were blind and defenseless. One by one, they were torn apart on the ground. Explosions ripped through launch vehicles, turning multi-million-dollar systems into burning scrap. Tamir missiles still loaded in their tubes cooked off in secondary detonations, lighting up the night sky in apocalyptic fireballs. By hour 4, the once proud Iron Dome network protecting northern and central Israel had gone deathly silent. The psychological blow was catastrophic. For decades, Israeli families had slept peacefully under the invisible umbrella of Iron Dome. Now that umbrella was shredded. Civilians stared at the sky in disbelief as air raid sirens wailed without the familiar sound of interceptors launching. Soldiers on the ground who had trusted the system with their lives suddenly found themselves completely exposed. Commanders issued desperate orders to conserve the last remaining missiles for only the highest priority targets, effectively writing off entire cities and bases as acceptable risk. The fall of Iron Dome was not merely a military failure, it was the collapse of a national myth. The myth that technology could guarantee absolute safety. In a single devastating night, one of the most expensive and advanced defensive systems ever built was reduced to silent, smoking ruins. The sky that Israel once controlled now belonged to its enemies. And in that darkness, the true horror of the new battlefield reality became clear. With the 7 layers of defense shattered and the Iron Dome reduced to smoking wreckage, the Israeli Defense Forces did not simply weaken, they descended into total operational collapse. The command and control backbone that had coordinated one of the world's most professional militaries simply evaporated. Secure communication networks, hardened against conventional jamming, failed under the sheer intensity of Iran's multi-domain electronic assault. Division and brigade headquarters found themselves isolated from higher command. Orders stopped flowing. Situational awareness disappeared. For the first time in its history, the IDF fought blind, deaf, and disconnected. In the air, the situation was catastrophic. 200 F-35s, the crown jewels of Israeli air power, were reduced to expensive ghosts in the sky. Without GPS, without data links, and with radar networks offline, pilots lost the ability to coordinate strikes or even safely navigate back to base. Several aircraft were forced into emergency manual landings using visual references alone, while others circled helplessly in holding patterns, burning fuel with no clear instructions. Air superiority, long taken for granted by the IDF, ceased to exist in a matter of hours. Planned deep strikes into Lebanon and Syria were canceled mid-mission. Fighter jets that managed to take off returned without dropping a single weapon, their multi-million-dollar precision munitions now useless without targeting data. On the ground, disciplined units that once operated with surgical coordination began to fracture. Tank crews of the vaunted Merkava brigades, suddenly cut off from artillery support and real-time intelligence, sat exposed on their forward positions. Without GPS or updated enemy locations, commanders hesitated to move, fearing they would drive straight into ambushes or friendly fire zones. Infantry platoons reported enemy movements that could not be verified. Requests for fire support went unanswered because artillery batteries no longer had accurate coordinates or permission to shoot. Chaos spread through the logistics chain like wildfire. Supply convoys carrying critical ammunition and fuel became lost on roads they had driven for years. Drivers relied on paper maps and compasses for the first time in decades. Medical evacuation helicopters were grounded, leaving wounded soldiers waiting for hours in makeshift collection points. Reserve mobilization centers received conflicting orders. Some units were told to deploy immediately, others to stand down, creating massive traffic jams and confusion at assembly areas. The psychological toll was immediate and brutal. Soldiers who had trained their entire careers under the assumption of technological dominance suddenly found themselves fighting like their grandfathers in 1973, relying on line-of-sight contact, runners, and handwritten notes. Morale, once sky-high due to superior equipment and intelligence, plummeted. Reports flooded in of entire companies refusing night movements without confirmed air cover or artillery backing. Commanders at the battalion level began making independent life or death decisions because they could no longer reach division headquarters. Worst of all was the loss of the common operating picture. The IDF's famous ability to see the entire battlefield in real time had vanished. No one knew with certainty where friendly forces were located, where the enemy had penetrated, or which threats were real versus phantom contacts created by spoofed intelligence. This uncertainty led to tragic friendly fire incidents and delayed responses to genuine breakthroughs by Hezbollah ground forces along the northern border. By the sixth hour, the Northern Command, once the most powerful and well-equipped theater in the IDF, had effectively ceased to function as a unified military formation. It had become dozens of isolated pockets of resistance, each fighting its own desperate battle with limited resources and almost no higher guidance. This was not the result of cowardice or poor training. Israeli soldiers remained brave and highly skilled. What failed was the entire ecosystem that turned individual courage into collective combat power. The sophisticated machinery of modern warfare, the networks, the satellites, the precision systems, had been methodically stripped away, leaving a world-class military stumbling in the dark. The speed of this collapse stunned even veteran observers. What Western planners had assumed would take weeks of sustained pressure happened in a single night. The IDF, long feared as an unbeatable regional force, was suddenly revealed to be terrifyingly fragile once its technological crutches were kicked out from beneath it. The Northern Front didn't just bend, it broke. What I am witnessing right now is not just a military setback. This is a strategic earthquake that has forever changed the balance of power in the Middle East. The northern and central fronts, once considered impregnable fortresses, now lie completely exposed. Hezbollah fighters, who were previously suppressed by constant Israeli air power and artillery, are now moving with near total freedom along the border. Israeli Merkava tank brigades that should be spearheading counterattacks sit motionless, low on ammunition, blind to enemy movements, and stripped of air support. Entire divisions have been reduced to isolated outposts, each fighting for survival with rapidly vanishing supplies. The speed of this collapse has shocked even the most experienced Israeli commanders. Positions expected to hold for weeks under intense pressure began crumbling in just 48 hours. I have received reports from the field of soldiers rationing every single bullet, every liter of fuel, and every battery cell because resupply has become uncertain. The psychological blow is devastating. The IDF, long used to controlling the battlefield, is now desperately reacting to events it no longer controls. Washington is in an even worse position. For decades, America positioned itself as Israel's ultimate protector. Yet when the crisis hit, the United States discovered its power to help had been systematically neutralized. Airfields prepared for emergency resupply were damaged, major ports were rendered unusable. Even American aircraft operating in the region fell under the same electronic warfare blanket that blinded Israeli systems. The few resupply flights that managed to get through carried only a tiny fraction of what is desperately needed. Pentagon planners are now quietly admitting the truth they cannot say publicly. Restoring Israel's full combat capability will take weeks, perhaps months. Time the battlefield will not allow. This crisis has exposed a brutal structural reality. Iran has proven it possesses true military self-reliance. Every drone, every jammer, every precision missile used in this campaign was built under Iranian control. No desperate calls to foreign suppliers, no political permissions, no vulnerable overseas supply chains. Iran acted with absolute strategic independence. Israel, on the other hand, finds itself trapped in a deadly dependency. Its F-35s, Arrow system, David's sling, and much of its ammunition all rely on American parts, software updates, and spare parts. When those lifelines are cut or delayed, the entire high-tech war machine begins to collapse. What was once considered a great alliance advantage has become Israel's greatest vulnerability, and Iran exploited it perfectly. The global shockwaves are only just beginning. Western high-technology defense systems have suffered a catastrophic blow to their reputation. Nations that spent billions building similar networked GPS-dependent architectures are now urgently rethinking their strategies. If Israel's seven-layer shield could be dismantled this fast, what chance do comparable systems in the Pacific, Eastern Europe, or the Gulf actually have? Energy markets are already reacting with fear. The same Iranian forces that executed this campaign still hold the ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Oil insurance rates are spiking. Every barrel of crude passing through that choke point now carries a massive new risk premium. Russia and China are watching with deep satisfaction. Moscow sees concrete proof that American security guarantees can be neutralized through sophisticated multi-domain warfare. Beijing is studying every detail, how quickly a technologically superior force can be paralyzed when its electronic foundation is removed. Both countries will now accelerate their own A2, AD, and electronic warfare programs at full speed. Most importantly, this conflict is forcing the world to confront a new military truth. The era in which superior technology alone guaranteed victory is ending. What matters now is the deadly combination of low-cost mass, electronic dominance, deep intelligence preparation, and total strategic autonomy. Iran has shown that a determined mid-tier power, through patience and clever asymmetry, can humble a far richer and more technologically advanced opponent. The old rules, overwhelming firepower, total air supremacy, and endless logistics, no longer guarantee success. A new and far more dangerous reality has emerged. Vulnerability to electronic disruption and supply chain fragility can outweigh raw military spending. Israel still has brave soldiers and skilled commanders, but courage cannot replace destroyed radars, blinded fighters, and silent defense systems. The coming days will be brutal. They will reveal whether Israel can adapt faster than its enemies can exploit this historic window of weakness. The Middle East has entered a dark new chapter. The myth of technological invincibility has been violently shattered, and the entire world is watching. The events of the past 48 hours mark more than just another chapter in the Israel-Iran conflict. They represent a historic turning point in modern warfare. 7 layers of what was considered the most advanced air defense system on Earth, reduced to silence. 200 F-35s, blinded and grounded. The legendary Iron Dome, shattered and dark, and the once mighty IDF thrown into complete operational chaos, all achieved not through brute force, but through meticulous planning, electronic mastery, and the ruthless exploitation of technological dependencies. This was not a lucky strike. This was the deliberate execution of a strategy years in the making, one that exposed the hidden fragility behind expensive Western military systems. A strategy that proves self-reliance and integrated electronic warfare can overcome overwhelming technological superiority. The myth of invincibility has been broken. The assumption that money and advanced hardware alone guarantee security has been proven dangerously wrong. The battlefield of the 21st century now belongs to those who can master the invisible domains: signals, intelligence, autonomy, and the ability to strike without depending on vulnerable supply chains. What happens next remains uncertain. Can Israel rapidly rebuild its shattered defenses before its enemies exploit this window of vulnerability? Can the United States find a way to restore its allies' combat power in an environment specifically designed to prevent it? Or has the balance of power in the Middle East shifted permanently? One thing is clear: the rules of war have changed. If you want to stay ahead of these fast-moving events with honest, in-depth, and uncompromising military analysis, then I need your support right now. Smash the like button if this breakdown opened your eyes. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next critical update. This situation is developing hour by hour, and the next video is already in production. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Israel can recover from this blow, or has the era of technological dominance truly ended? I read every single comment, and they help shape future videos. Thank you for watching until the end. Stay alert. The world is changing faster than most people realize.